Welcome to episode three. Yes, episode three of Ultimate Opinion with your boy Daniel, aka D Money. On this podcast, I intend to be subjective and transparent when giving my opinion on these topics. Before we dive into today's episode, I would like to congratulate all of the nominees and all of the winners of the 2025 iHeart Podcast Awards that premiered last Monday. If you guys want to check it out, I believe it's on their website. Oh, let's see what we got here. So, Podcast of the Year went to Los Culturitis. I probably jacked that all the way up with Matt Rogers and Boeing Yang. Best Pop Culture Podcast went to the world's first podcast with Aaron and Sarah Foster. The reason why I separated out the best pop culture podcast is because that's what my podcast is. That's what my genre really is, pop culture. And I just wanted to show them some love. Having a podcast is hard work with the research, send up interviews, time, the editing, the music, the name. A lot of people feel like it's easy to do. Trust me, it's not. It took me 1 year to think about doing a podcast and setting out how I wanted it to be, how I wanted to go, if I was gonna have any guests, the topics, the name, the music. It's a whole lot that goes into doing a podcast. And I'm proud that over the years, podcast has grown. And the fact that now we got an award show for it is amazing. Like I said, big ups to all the winners and the nominees. Anyone can do a podcast. Let me just tell you that right now. All you need to do is have the gift of gab, which some of us do have. And a friend of mine was asking me, now, what do I need to talk about? I said, as long as you have a specific passion and just something that you love, just go in there and talk about it. That's all it's about. You don't need no college, no, it doesn't take all that. If you're passionate about something and you want to share it to the world, it's okay to go ahead and start a podcast. So, once again, like I said, congratulations to all the winners and the nominees of the 2025 iHeart Podcast Awards. So, today's episode will be about politics and history. Of course, anyone that knows me know that I am a freaking political geek. I love history and I love politics. So today, what I will be discussing is the most memorable quotes from inaugural addresses. As many of you know, every 4 years, when we elect a president, he gives a inaugural address slash speech. And today, what I'm gonna be detailing is the most memorable quotes from inaugural addresses. I'm also going to give my top two or three favorite inaugural addresses from history, and I will also detail what that president did during his term, how long he was in office, and I will also be talking about, well, detailing the shortest inaugural address and the longest. Because believe it or not, there's really no time frame to it. But at the end of the show, I'm going to give my opinion on why I feel like some of these speeches may be pointless. But like I said, when that time comes, we're going to get to it. But today we're going to get started. And like I said, I'm going to break down the most memorable quotes from the inaugural addresses. So, Inauguration Day has been a tradition in the works since the beginning of the presidency. Over the years, several traditions has included the president choosing the Bible on which they will swear the oath of office and the number of inauguration balls he and his wife attend. However, the inaugural address has been at the center of the day's festivities since the speech allows the new president to set his agenda going forward, as well as inspire the country in times, trial, and change. These speeches have gone into history as defining not only the presidency itself, but sometimes even the spirit that the president's generation. So, the first, it's not really the first, but the first memorable quote that I'm going to jot down or give you information about is Theodore, Theodore Roosevelt's second inaugural address, 1905. Much has been given to us, and much will rightfully be expected from us. We have duties to others and duties to ourselves, and we can shirk neither. That was from Theodore Roosevelt. My man right here, of course, anybody that know me know I'm an Obama guy, Mr. 44. Barack Obama's first inaugural address, 2009. Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America. Franklin Roosevelt's second inaugural address, 1937. Old truths have been relearned. Untruths have been unlearned. We have always known that headless self interest was bad morals. We know now that is bad economics. Thomas Jefferson's first inaugural address, 1801. But every difference of opinion is not a difference of principle. We have called by different names, written of the same principle. We are all Republicans. We are all Federalists. George Washington's first inaugural address, 1789. And since the preservation of the sacred fire of liberty and the destiny of the Republican model of government are justly considered as deeply, perhaps as fondly staked on the experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people. Like I was saying, like most of the time, these speeches they only detail like certain quotes. If you're really not a political whiz or a history geek like me, mm, you're not gonna know some of these. Some of these I already knew because I've studied it. I read up on it. I did research, but most of the time it's just a little quotes that people tend to remember. Bill Clinton's first inaugural address, 1993. There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America. Ronald Reagan's first inaugural address, 1981. In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. So that is just some idea of what happens during inauguration day. If you guys, like I said, I don't know how many of you guys are political geeks or history nerds, but inauguration day, it's a transition. Either even either it's a new administration coming in or it's the current. And most of the time, most people don't really pay attention to the speeches. It's the balls, it's the music. Oh, but what I've come to realize over the years with inauguration day that it's 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 about what the president is gonna do. So most of the time, during election time, you see candidates on the campaign trail talking about promises, what they're gonna do, what they're gonna change, yada yada yada. If you pay attention to most of the speeches, which I want you guys to go and do when you get a chance, it could be current or past. Look up inauguration speeches, please, and then go and look at some of that candidates' campaign promises. See if they brought up anything that they were going to do, anything they were going to change. I challenge you to do that because what I've seen is most of the time an inauguration speech is what your plans are, but you said couple months ago in your campaign ad you was gonna do that. So that's what I'm just telling you guys to just think when you get a chance. See if okay in October, November, this candidate said he was gonna do this. When he won, and this is for the presidents. When he won, in his inauguration speech, did he even bring that up? Just start paying attention to that. And that's what I realized when I started watching these speeches that it's just they're just talking about basically what they're gonna do for the future, what their plan is. And that's why I'm telling you guys, next time you get a chance, look it up so you can start paying attention. Like, wait a minute, wait a minute. He didn't say this during his campaign ads, but on the inauguration, like, it's totally different. Politics is a dirty game. Trust me, I know. I ran for office, so I know the it can be a cutthroat profession. Let me just tell you this: you have to be able to take it and dish it out because you're not going to be able to please everybody. Everybody's not going to like you. Everybody's going to throw out the promises that you said you was going to do, and if you know damn well that you're not going to do this or that you said in your campaign ads, that's where accountability comes from. That's why it's important to vote so you can complain about certain candidates that you voted for or the ones that you didn't vote for. You promised me this, you promised me that. You're not holding up your end of the bargain when I voted for you. That's why it's important to vote. Elections are important, people. It's no joke. People have died for this right. People have got beat up, spit on, bit in the ass with dogs, sprayed with hoses, so we can vote. Yes, I know a lot of people feel like if it don't go a certain type of way, well, my vote don't matter. No, your vote, your vote always matters because you have a voice. I always tell people, you don't vote, you can't complain. Simple as that. You can't do no bitching if you wasn't man or woman enough to go out there and vote. Simple as that. So now what I will be detailing right now is, like I said, this was kind of a hard one for me because, like I was saying, anyone that knows me know that I'm a freaking political whiz. I read a bunch of political books. It's even so funny that I know, like, I'm not gonna go through the spiel because this is about the inaugural addresses, but I know most of the presidents, date of births, how long they was in office, the vice presidents, their political parties, because I this is what I went to school for, so I know all this. So this was really difficult for me trying to find and research my favorite memorable quotes from inaugural addresses because, to be honest with you, I like them all. Each one to me stands out in its own way, but since I'm pressed for time, I had to limit myself. I could have probably did 20, but I limited myself to three. I was able to go. through every president, the inaugural addresses, and the quotes that I felt, like I said, made a difference. So I was able to hold myself down because I'm such a political geek. Had you can tell, I mean, this is me right here. So I was able to calm myself down and limit myself to three. So my top three memorable quotes from inaugural addresses, as it goes. John F. Kennedy's first inaugural address, 1961. Ask not what you can do for your country, but what, wait a minute, I kind of back that up. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Then, well, this is another favorite one of mine. Like I said, I struggled because like I had so many. I had so many, but like I said, I limit myself to three. Franklin Roosevelt's first inaugural address, 1933. This great nation will endure as it endured, will revive and will prosper. So, first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, nameless, unreasoning, unjustified, terror which paralyzes needed of efforts to convert, retreat, to advance. And my final, like I said, I got a whole lot of inaugural addresses quotes or the inaugural address that I like, but this last one is Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, 1865. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with fairness and the right as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have won the battle, and for his widow and orphan, to all which may achieve and cherish and losing peace among ourselves and with all nations. So, like I said, those was my top three memorable inaugural quotes from President John F. Kennedy, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and President Abraham Lincoln. So now what I would do is say uh, what these men accomplished, well, what they're really known for during their time in office. So it's just the details, not everything that they've accomplished, everything that they did. It's just basically what they're known for. So John F. Kennedy, of course, was president from 1961 to 1963. John F. Kennedy's presidency was marked by his charisma, of course, and his vision for a new era of American leadership. So at the time, in 1960, President Kennedy was the youngest president elected at 43. He was the first, I want to say, Irish Catholic, and he was the first to have little kids in the White House. Of course, Caroline and little John John. And during that time, like it was in the 1960s, him and the beautiful Jackie Kennedy, they changed what a president and a first lady was. Before President Kennedy, of course, you had most presidents was elder and their wives was elder, and they had either kids in high school or college. But President Kennedy changed all that. Like I said, with him being young, his charisma, his beautiful wife, his two little kids, and it made a certain generation be like, okay, you know, this is our president. It's almost like how President Obama was for the millennials. Of course, he was in his late 40s. He had two little kids. So, like, whenever you have a younger president that can relate to a generation, he's going to be popular and he's going to be more relatable. And that's what it was with JFK. Um, he launched the space race with the Soviet Union, delivered a powerful speech in Berlin, and oversaw the Cuban Missile Crisis, a tense standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. So that's what President Kennedy is mainly known for, getting the space race, which, matter of fact, is he actually made that promise in 1960. And unfortunately, he was assassinated in 1963. But lo and behold, in 1969, we put a man on the moon. And that's what JFK, that's what he was pushing. Like, we're going to get up in space. And that's what he did. It just sucks that he didn't get a chance to see it. Uh, and Franklin D. Roosevelt was president, 1933 to 1945. Of course, if you guys don't know, he's I want to say the only three-term president so far. I'm about to go and double check that, but if I'm not mistaken, he's so far the only three-term president. Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency is remembered for his New Deal programs, which aimed to alleviate the suffering caused by the Great Depression. So he was basically president during the Great Depression. Uh, he also led the nation through World War II, of course. His famous speech after Pearl Harbor. Everyone should know that. Playing a key role in the Allied victory, Roosevelt's presidency is considered one of the longest and most consequential in American history. Like I said, I want to say he is the only three-term president. But like I said, he definitely ushered in a New Deal. Like I said, got us through, the beginning stages of World War II. So yeah, like I was saying, and he had polio. So like, if you guys haven't like seen any documentaries of like his story, is so amazing. Like where he, how he overcame that, and like I said, became one of the greatest presidents of that time. Um, and now we are going to go to Abraham Lincoln, of course, president, 18 from 1861 1865. Abraham Lincoln's presidency is remembered for his leadership during the Civil War. He issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing slaves in the Confederate territories, and ultimately led the Union to victory. Lincoln's assassination in 1865 marked a tragic end to his presidency, but his legacy as a great wartime leader and champion of freedom remains enduring. And this is um, the reason why during that time, or even if you talk to older or elderly black senior citizens, the reason why most of them stayed Republicans is because Abraham Lincoln was Republican, and he did free the slaves, but he was assassinated. And I during that time, there's so many like okay, if you believe in conspiracy theories or whatever, okay, but of course John Wilkes Booth is the assassin of Abraham Lincoln. Uh, it was said that he, I guess, wasn't for what Abraham Lincoln was doing when it came to slaves, trying to free the slaves, so he assassinated them. But I, there is, I'm gonna tell you guys, okay, so I love unsolved mysteries also, and there's an episode of unsolved mysteries with they they do a story about John Wilkes Booth assassinating Abraham Lincoln. But there has been stories said that supposedly John Wilkes Booth got away and he wasn't killed a few days later in a barn. Who knows? It's been like I said, story after story. But like I said, you guys do the research. You guys believe what you want to believe. But it's so long ago. I mean, at this point, it really doesn't matter. But Abraham Lincoln. Like I said, he was a good president. Just like JFK. Unfortunately, his term was cut short due to assassination, and that's what sometimes is the fear of, and that's just not even president. Over the past decade, even now, there has been in Washington, U.S. senators that's been shot. Of course, last summer, President Trump, he was at a rally. Uh, he was, you know, shot in the ear or whatever. And locally, Mary Greenberg was shot. So like, it's not even just like I was saying, being in politics. It's it's good and bad at the same time because, like I said, you're not going to please everyone. You're not going to make everyone happy, but it's also dangerous if someone or a group of people don't like what you're trying to do. They will make it a point to try to take you out. And I think that's, and I'm not gonna say mental. I'm not gonna say that because who knows? Could it be mental health? It could be, but I think we just need to have conversations. I think that's what we need to do. We just need to have conversations. And like, I don't agree with what the Republicans say, what the Democrats say. I don't agree with with either side on some issues, but that's where them conversations come from. And I feel like now we're just at a time where like everyone's just so sensitive and everyone just wants to shoot first and ask questions later. There are numbers that you can call to get in touch with your local council people, your local Congress people. I mean, I just feel like that, politicians agree or disagree, okay, they're still human. They're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna say some off the wall shit that don't make no sense. I'm talking about both sides. I'm not saying one side. I'm talking about both sides. Both 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 sides are guilty of it. But I don't think violence is not the way to go about it. I'm all about, okay, if you see a public official, most of the time, well, it depends on, I guess, the certain level that security or not, but it confront them. Okay, especially if, like I was saying earlier, if they made promises and they haven't helped their end of it. Okay, confront them, ask them about it, but don't make them feel threatened. Don't do that because, like I said, they are still human. They still got a job to do, and it's about respect. It's okay to be direct and to be like, "Hey, I voted for you. You're not doing this. What's the issue?" You don't have to go try to swing on nobody. Go try, and that's why I feel like that's where we are right now. Like most anytime you see a politician now, they got to have security because the environment that we're in right now is not safe. You just can't walk up to uh, your local politician and be like I was saying, you made these promises, you're not doing it. We don't do that no more. Like I said, this is a violent world that we're in right now. So like we don't have those conversations which we need to have. Like I said, they should be approachable and you should be direct, but the violence and the threats, that's to me is too much. Because like I said, at the end of the day, these politicians are still human. They still have husbands and wives and kids that they go home to, and they still gotta do a job. My thing is you make noise in the voting booth. That's how you show a politician. If they haven't did what they said they was gonna do, vote their asses out. That's all you gotta do. That's how you make noise. You vote the asses out of office. That's all. L- Just a little more. That's all you got to do. That's how you let your voice be heard. Vote them out. So, so I gave my top three, which was hard because, like I said, I got plenty of memorable quotes from the inaugural addresses. So now I'm about to give some trivia facts. So this is the longest inaugural address, and then I'm gonna also get the shortest. So the longest inaugural speech, William Henry Harrison delivered the longest inaugural speech so far in American history with 8,460 words. The speech took nearly 2 hours to deliver. That's too damn long. Along with the longest speech, he also had the shortest presidency. He died of pneumonia only a month into his term. So that's the longest speech. 8,460 words, 2 hours. I'm sure after probably 30 minutes, the crowd was just done because everything was probably, he was probably being a day. He was probably like that preacher that just keep on, repeating itself in different ways. 2 hours, that's too damn long. And the shortest inaugural speech, George Washington's second inaugural address, is by a good margin the shortest inaugural address ever delivered, using just 135 words, only focusing on the key element of the inaugural ceremony, the oath of office and the responsibilities that the oath imposes. So George Washington just kept it real. He was just probably went up there, said what he was going to do, and kept it moving. And I know I had said that I was going to give my input and my opinion on presidential speeches during the inaugural. I feel like a speech should it shouldn't be no longer than 10 minutes. I feel like the president makes it a point, and I'm gonna say it to say a whole bunch of bullshit, knowing that people's really not listening. But they say it, and I feel like they keep people in the because this year, um, it was so cold that they couldn't do it outside, so they had to do it in the rotunda, I believe. But I don't think a president should be up there no longer than 10 minutes giving an inaugural speech because, like I was saying, people aren't listening to the speech. They just want to see, are you going to do what you promised to do in your campaign ads? And that's what, if I was advising a president or a speechwriter president, I'd be like, yeah, dude, like we're gonna keep it short and simple. Like people, at the end of the day, people aren't going to go back and look at this speech and be like, oh man, this was no, 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 no. They're gonna look at, okay, you said gas prices was gonna go down. How's that looking? You said groceries was gonna go down. How's it? People don't pay attention to your inaugural speech unless, like I said, you're somebody like me who is a political whiz and a history junkie slash nerd. Most of the time, people don't pay attention to that damn speech. They are looking for results. Like I said, people will go back to your campaign ad and what you said you was gonna do this. And that's why I feel like the speech is really, I'm not gonna say it's a waste, but I don't think it should be over 10 minutes. I don't think a president should be up there just doing a whole bunch of talking and people's not listening. Like I said, when you get voted in, you got voted in for your campaign ads and your promises. That's what you got voted in for. And I feel like these speechwriters, they make it a point to make sure this president has the best speech. People don't care about that. People care about what this president is going to do. Is this president going to put more money in my pocket? Is this president going to lower the cost of this, the cost of that? That's what the American people, or because I'm assuming Every country that got a president. I'm assuming they may have inaugural addresses. I don't know, but I know for a fact that American people, they don't care about that shit. Doing all this for like an hour. No, 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 no. When you get in that White House, what are you gonna do? And that's what I feel like these speeches. It's important, but I feel like I said, that these presidents now they had to feel like they had to preach. No, 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 no. Make it short and to the point. Get me on this code. Let me enjoy the festivities for the day. And then for 4 years, you will be judged. We are going to see what you're going to do. But you don't have to sit up there and talk for an hour about your plan for the future. Because when you was running, that's what you was talking about anyway. So on the first day that you become president, you don't have to have me in the code talking this long about it. So I really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope it was informative. Like I said, of course, I know all of the political junkies in the history, people like myself, are gonna enjoy this. Um, like I said, I feel like when it comes to politics and government, I just wish more people knew what was going on and was aware of w- what you need to see. I always say, when you want to fact check, go to different outlets. Just don't use one source. Check different sources to make sure all that matches up. And that's for anything. But yeah, I believe that when I give information, like today, uh, I want you to think about these inaugural quotes. And like I said, when you get a chance, go back and look at certain presidents' campaign ads, and then go back and read their speeches and see if anything matches up. Just do that for yourself, so you can be like, wait a minute, this ain't sounding right. Like I said, if you have time, go and do that. But like I said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. When giving these opinions, most of the time they're my personal opinions and mine alone. Um, of course, I would love to hear from you guys. Of course, I would love to hear your opinion. Of course, to always like, subscribe, and comment. Once again, I'm your boy Daniel, aka D Money. And until next time, be blessed. I'm out.